I've always been the quiet, responsible one in the family. At 40 years old now, with my daughter Caroline turning 18 in a few months, I've spent most of my life putting others first. Caroline is the light of my world, a bright, hard-working girl who's about to start college. We live in a cramped two-bedroom apartment where the rent climbs every year, and no matter how hard I work as an administrative assistant, we're always one unexpected bill away from stress. But a few years ago, life handed me something unexpected, a small house that changed everything. It all started when I was in my late 20s. My great aunt Evelyn, everyone called her Aunt Evie, fell seriously ill. She was over 90, living alone in the tidy little two-bedroom bungalow she'd owned outright since the 1950s. The family was scattered. My parents were working long hours. My younger brother Adam, now 34, was newly married and building his life with his wife Sarah, and the cousins all had excuses. I'd just graduated from community college and was between jobs, so I stepped up. For nearly 3 years, I was her primary caregiver, driving her to appointments, cooking meals, handling her finances, sitting with her through the long nights when pain kept her awake. Aunt Evie and I grew close in those years. She'd tell stories about growing up during the Depression, about buying that little house with her husband right after the war, about planting the magnolia tree in the front yard that still shades the porch. When she passed away peacefully at 94, the will reading surprised everyone. The house, the one she'd paid off decades ago, was left entirely to me. Not split among the grandchildren, not sold for the estate, just me. For the one who was actually here, the lawyer read from her handwritten note. My parents were supportive. The cousins grumbled quietly, but Adam, he smiled tightly and said, "Lucky you." At the time, Adam and Sarah were struggling. They'd just had their first child, little Emma, and were renting a tiny apartment in a noisy building. Adam had been bouncing between jobs, and Sarah was on maternity leave. When they asked if they could stay in Aunt Evie's house, just for a little while to save money, I didn't hesitate. Family helps family, right? We agreed. Rent-free at first, then a small symbolic rent, $300 a month once they were back on their feet. Most importantly, we shook on one clear condition. The house would always be available for Caroline when she needed it. When she turned 18 and was ready to start her adult life, whether that meant living there during college or using it as a launch pad, they would move out. Adam hugged me and said, "Of course, sis, we'd never stand in Caroline's way." The years slipped by. Caroline grew from a shy 10-year-old into a confident young woman with college acceptance letters and dreams of studying nursing. Meanwhile, Adam and Sarah had 2 more kids, twins, now 5 years old. The little while turned into 8 years. The symbolic rent came sporadically at first, then stopped altogether after the twins were born. I never pushed hard. I didn't want to strain family ties, and I told myself they needed the help more than I needed the money. But the house began to show the wear. I'd visit every few months to check on things. Peeling paint on the porch, overgrown yard, stains on the carpet, holes in the drywall from the kids' rough play. The magnolia tree was strangled by weeds. When I gently mentioned repairs, Adam would laugh it off. "We're so busy with the kids, you know how it is." Sarah would add, "We'll get to it soon." I paid the property taxes every year, nearly $4,000, and the homeowner's insurance, because the deed was in my name and I couldn't risk losing it. They never offered to contribute. Last year, Caroline got accepted into the state university 2 hours away, but the dorms were full and off-campus housing was outrageously expensive. She looked at me with those hopeful eyes and said, "Mom, what about Aunt Evie's house? I could live there, commute if needed, or even rent out the second bedroom to a classmate to help with costs." It made perfect sense. The house was paid off. She could build equity, have stability, start her adult life without drowning in student loans and rent. Called Adam. Hey, Caroline's turning 18 soon and starting college. Remember our agreement? It's time for her to move into the house. Silence on the line. Then, seriously? Now? The kids are finally settled in school here. We've put so much into this place. You haven't put anything into it, I said quietly. I've been paying taxes and insurance. And we agreed. Yeah, the agreement, he interrupted. But come on, she's just a kid. She can live in dorms like everyone else or get an apartment. She doesn't need a whole house. That's kind of spoiled, don't you think? Spoiled. The word hit like a slap. My daughter, who'd worked weekends at a coffee shop since she was 16, who'd earned scholarships, who'd never asked for handouts, was spoiled for wanting the home that was promised to her? I didn't argue that day. I just said, we need to talk in person. The family meeting at my apartment was tense. Adam and Sarah arrived with the 3 kids in tow, letting them run wild while we talked. Caroline sat quietly on the couch, hands folded in her lap. I laid it out calmly. The house is mine. It was left to me. You've lived there rent-free or nearly free for 8 years. That was to help you get on your feet. You're on your feet now. Caroline needs it. Adam's face reddened. This is our home. The kids grew up here. You can't just kick us out. I'm not kicking you out today, I said. I'm giving you notice. 1 year. 12 months to find a new place. That's more than fair. Sarah started crying. Where are we supposed to go? Rent is insane. We have 3 kids. You've had 8 years to save, I replied. 8 years of little to no rent. That's over $100,000 you didn't have to pay in this market. You could have bought your own place by now. Adam scoffed. We had expenses. Kids are expensive, and we've improved the house. With what? The broken fence? The leaking faucet you never fixed? The kids were listening now, wide-eyed. Caroline looked close to tears. I ended the conversation. 1 year. I'll put it in writing. I consulted a lawyer the next week. He confirmed, since there was no formal lease, they were month-to-month tenants at best. I could give 30 days notice, but because they'd been there so long and had children, I wanted to be humane. I gave them 12 months, far more generous than required. Sent a certified letter, formal notice, to vacate by June 30th of the following year. I included a list of everything I'd paid for over the years, taxes, insurance, even the new water heater I'd installed when theirs failed. I kept a copy for myself. The backlash was immediate. My parents called, pleading, "He's your brother. Family doesn't evict family." Cousins texted, cold-hearted. Adam posted vague Facebook rants about ungrateful relatives and betrayal. Sarah sent long messages about how the kids would be traumatized. I stayed firm. Caroline and I started planning. She picked paint colors, soft gray for the living room, white trim to brighten the kitchen. We talked about planting flowers under the magnolia tree, fixing the porch swing Aunt Evie used to love. As the deadline approached, the excuses escalated. We're looking, but nothing's affordable. The kids are starting new schools. Just 1 more year? No. In May, I sent another certified letter. 60 days remaining. I scheduled a walkthrough with a property manager friend to document the condition. The day we arrived, my heart sank. The house was a wreck. Walls scuffed and dented, carpet stained beyond cleaning, kitchen cabinets hanging loose, backyard overgrown into a jungle. Someone had punched holes in 2 doors. The garage was packed with junk, broken toys, old furniture, bags of clothes, and the smell, stale food, unwashed laundry, neglect. Adam met us at the door, arms crossed. Happy now? Come to gloat? "I'm here to document," I said quietly. The property manager took photos while Caroline walked through her future home with tears in her eyes. "You're destroying our family," Adam muttered. "No," I replied. "You're destroying Aunt Evie's house, the one she trusted me with." June came. They didn't leave. I filed for formal eviction. The court date was set for August. Adam hired a lawyer who argued detrimental reliance, that they'd made the house their home and eviction would cause hardship. My lawyer countered with the paper trail, the original agreement, years of me paying all major expenses, the written notices. The judge ruled in my favor, 30 days to vacate or the sheriff would remove them. The final day arrived. I didn't go. I couldn't bear to watch. I hired a moving company on standby and sent the property manager again. When I finally entered the house 2 days later, it was worse than I feared. They trashed it on the way out. Garbage bags left to rot, food smeared on walls, crayon scribbles everywhere, even human waste in one corner of the bathroom. They deliberately clogged and overflowed the toilet. The magnolia tree had been hacked at with what looked like an axe. Holes punched in nearly every wall. The porch swing chains cut. Caroline stood in the doorway and cried, not from sadness, from rage. How could they do this to us, to Aunt Evie's memory? We didn't speak to Adam or Sarah for months. But here's the thing. We rebuilt. Insurance covered some of the damage, vandalism clause. Friends and neighbors rallied, church groups, Caroline's future classmates, even strangers who heard the story. We gutted and repainted, replaced carpet with hardwood floors, fixed the plumbing, restored the magnolia tree with careful pruning. Caroline moved in that fall, just in time for her first semester. She rented the second bedroom to a nursing classmate, and together they turned the house into a home. Warm, clean, full of laughter and late-night study sessions. Adam and Sarah ended up renting a small apartment across town. Last I heard, money's tight and they're struggling. My parents still sigh and say, "You could have worked it out." But Caroline and I, we're thriving. She's on the dean's list, working part-time, and for the first time in her life, she has stability, a paid-off home, a future she's building on her own terms. Sometimes, on quiet evenings, we sit on the restored porch swing under the magnolia tree. The leaves rustle the same way they did when Aunt Evie was alive. Caroline will look at me and say, "Thank you, Mom, for choosing me, for choosing us." And I'll smile and reply, "This was always yours, sweetheart. I just finally made sure you got it." The house is small, the paint still fresh, the scars beneath the surface. But it's ours, truly ours, and no one will ever take that away again. If you've ever had to stand up to family entitlement, you know how hard it is. But sometimes the greatest act of love isn't giving everything away. It's protecting what's meant for the next generation. Aunt Evie knew that when she left the house to me, and now I know it too.